What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 9, I believe, of my reviewing Frank Zappa cover albums, other people covering Frank Zappa's music. And today we have a release which came out about 20 years ago, 2003, right? It's 2023 right now. This is the Ensemble Moderne, plays the music of Frank Zappa, Greggery, Peccary, and other Persuasions. You may know the Ensemble Moderne from an album called The Yellow Shark, which I believe was the last officially released album before Frank passed away. And this is them doing 9 Zappa songs, a hidden track, which is another Zappa song, one original piece, short little piece, sort of inspired by another Zappa song. And it is ridiculously fantastic. Like, it is what you would expect from the Ensemble Moderne, that band. Track listing is fantastic. Pretty much all straight instrumental pieces, except for one huge exception. They're not trying to take rock songs and give them more of a sort of classical interpretation, and just, which sometimes doesn't always work out, where they just kind of recycle the melody and it doesn't really work out. They are taking some pretty challenging songs and just doing miraculous wonders with. Like, trying to come up with a comparison, I'm going back to cooking, right? It's like one of those cooking challenges where they give them like a basic dish to make, right? And they're like, well, you're going to take this classic dish from so and so, but I want you to interpret it and don't deconstruct the dish. Don't make it sort of what is this? We want you to make this dish, but we want you to put so much flavor into it and so much just you into it that it's just extra. And I feel that's what the Ensemble Moderne does. Is these songs all sound like the songs that they are. Like Maggio sounds like Maggio. Night School sounds like Night School. Put a Motor in Yourself sounds like Put a Motor in Yourself. But in the case of many of these songs, like their synclavier pieces, now being performed live by this roughly 20-piece orchestra, band, ensemble. And so where the life comes and the energy comes and the vibrancy comes and the actual essential listening comes is they've pretty much added more instruments to most of the originals, or in the case of a lot of the synclavier pieces, added real instruments, where before it was all programmed and electronic. And some of the choices they make, okay, these instruments are going to get this melody and these instruments are going to get this melody. They stay pretty too true to the songs, both in length, both in when there's, if there's a solo break, we're dropping a solo break in this part, and maybe this instrument might do what, the only one I'm really thinking of is improvised music for low budget orchestra. It's just so true to the music, and yet at the same time, so full of life and so full of I don't know. I keep going back to a cherry dessert. Somebody is tasked with making a cherry pie on a cooking show, and it looks like a cherry pie. It's all the ingredients of a cherry pie. It's got the crust of a cherry pie. Everything you need for a cherry pie is in this cherry pie, but it has so much more flavor and everything's perfect. And there's even a little extra zest in the crust or a little zest in the cherries. That's what the Ensemble Moderne does to these performances. They're fantastic. We get 1, 2, 3, 4 songs that were released either on Jazz from Hell or Civilization Phase 3. So synclavier pieces. We get Night School, which has one of the greatest grooves. Just the rhythm of this, almost like a Motorik krautrock type, just very solid groove that the band can layer all the other stuff on top of. Every time I've heard anybody do this live, it just seems to work as a great song, a great originally synclavier piece for somebody to cover. Works fantastic. The Beltway Bandits, Pig with Wings, which absolutely might be one of the standouts on here, sounds fantastic. And Put a Motor in Yourself, which that sort of melody that's laid over all the crazy sort of more rhythmic components on the original piece, that melody which kind of functions up here, the sort of black pageness of it really stands out more in this Ensemble Modern version. You can hear those instruments a little more, and you can feel that herky jerky, almost like stop and go Black Page sort of rhythm in the melody of that like theme that kind of rides over the rest of the chaos. And so all four of those pieces just sound fantastic. Like the fact that this is a actual people playing actual instruments makes these songs sound better, gives a little more like heart and soul to them, maybe gives them a little more warmth that they're lacking in the Synclavier pieces, and just absolutely just each of them is a standout in its own way. Opens up with Maggio, which is a great opener, works fantastic, sounds wonderful, really almost helps me rethink the song in a weird way. I've always associated it with like a deep cut in like an 82 show that they cut, or an 81, and they will come out of something and then jump into that and go into something else. It just this weird little instrumental bridge that connected some pretty great pieces live in like 81 and 82. As an opening number, it just works on this album. Absolutely fantastic. Band displays their chops. Incredible. The next song is called What Would Rumi Do? I think Rumi is a percussionist, sort of a reference to like, what would Ruth do? And like, don't you ever watch that thing? Ladies and gentlemen, watch Ruth. What will Ruth do? That kind of thing. I think it's like a callback to that, but it's a short little original piece. We get Night School. I think what for me might be the highlight on this, other than the obvious highlight, which we'll talk about later, is the revised music for low budget orchestra. Like, I like that song, the Studio Tan version. This one, just the instruments that are played, there's a warmth to this that I think the original is lacking. Like, this is the song out of all of them that takes all the ingredients exactly how you want a revised music played. All the weird tempo changes, the parts that drop in throughout, they're all there, and they're played better, or they're played with just more energy and more vibrancy, and there's just something about each of these, every little section and every little note and every little run that just sounds way more essential. And just like, to me, this is the definitive version of revised music for low budget orchestra. This is fantastic. Incredible. Then we get there's no guitar in the title, but there's no guitar in the band, apparently. The Beltway Bandits comes next. A Pig with Wings, Put a Motor in Yourself, all absolutely fantastic. The only thing that maybe leaves me like, they didn't do much with this, is the Peaches in Regalia. It's just kind of a Peaches. Comes towards the latter half of the second half of the album. It's like song 8 out of 10. It's the one thing that's just a little like, it's there, but it's Peaches. Fantastic song. And then the other song, which really, really, really I like, is the Naval Aviation and Art. One of my favorite moments of any sort of classical Zappa piece is those first like, those first notes of Naval Aviation. It just sets up such a disturbing picture, because I really don't know what's going on with Naval Aviation and Art, but that opening that just starts off, it's just always kind of unsettled me and creepied me. It's made me feel creepy. There's a little more like fullness to the way the Ensemble Modern plays it, and a little more just like a little more just, it doesn't quite sound as stark and scary. And at first, it doesn't have quite the immediate like pull me in as the original does, or subsequent live performances have done. But by the end of it, it establishes a pretty creepy, kind of establishes the same tone. And I think in a way, kind of like revived music for low budget orchestra, this is almost like a definitive like version of this song. It's just, I don't know. I think every note is in the right place. The choices they make are great. It just sounds fantastic. And then the final thing, other than the bonus hidden track, is we get a full, with vocals, cover of The Adventures of Greggery, Peccary. And it's all here. And it sounds fantastic. And every time I listen to this, it just sounds fun. It sounds like the band is having a good time tackling this utter monstrosity of a Zappa composition. And like, it just, they nail all the parts. Everything kind of builds in momentum, and we finally get to like that right towards the end, crazy, almost chaotic part before the final New Brown Clouds part fades out. That section is just everything that's happened for like the first 17 minutes. It just feels like they're releasing it, even though it's in these incredibly hard to play like lines, and it's so much going on, and it almost sounds chaotic, but then it finally comes together for one last New Brown Clouds to take us home. It's just everything's here, everything you want. The vocals are cartoonish and fun, but not over the top. They're not trying to sound like Frank too much. Everything just works as far as covering a song that whoever thought there'd be a cover of The Adventures of Greggery Peccary. But it just works really well. And then the bonus track is there is a cover of a really good, funky, kind of groovy cover of Does This Kind of Life Look Interesting to You off 200 Motels. That's just kind of weird and quirky and fun, and they got like the vocal part going on there, and it just really works. It's a really, really nice little hidden treat. But yeah, like I highly, highly recommend this album. Like if you're not a fan of the Synclavier stuff, like there's 4 songs on here, 2 from Jazz, 2 from Jazz from Hell, 2 from Civilization, Phase 3. And I really think that like hearing these performances and getting to know the songs, going back to those albums, they just sound more like songs. And I think they're easier to grasp. And I think they're easier to be like, okay, had a band been playing this, I can see where the warmth comes from and the melody, how it carries it. And I think they do justice. And I would love to see them tackle more of this Synclavier stuff and just do like a straight show of stuff that had only been performed on Synclavier, because that would be fantastic. But yeah, I absolutely love this. Where would I rank it among the other 8? I've gone back and forth with this in a while. And I'm putting it at number 1. The reason it kind of went back and forth with the Ed Palermo Big Band is because there's like solos in there, and there's people given opportunities to like stretch out and improvise. The track list has some pretty good selections on it. Like it's definitely a close race between these top 2, but the Greggery Peccary alone, and the fact that they tackled that and covered that and did such a fantastic job, I gotta reward that. And I really do think the Naval Aviation and Art and the revised music for Low Budget Orchestra are so spectacular and so good and just so perfectly performed. But like, it's the song, but with just way more heart and energy and just vibrancy. And it just feels, there's something about them that they feel more complete and fulfilling, at least to my ears. But yeah, right now it's number 1. Though those top 3 in particular are all super, super, super fantastic. 4 and 5 are really good. 6 is like a joke little thing, but I really like it. 7 is really good. 8 is fun. 9 is really the only thing on here that maybe has a handful of things, and the rest of it's kind of a waste. But yeah, some good cover stuff out there. But this one is, like, this is a must-hear. Like, this Ensemble Moderne, they are ridiculous. The songs they choose to tackle are ridiculous. Their execution is fine. It's amazing. It sounds, as hard as this music is, it sounds easy and it sounds fun. And that is a huge credit to this band, taking these compositions and bringing so much life to them. A fantastic, fantastic release. I highly recommend you check it out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, please. Your thoughts on this release. If you already know it, if you go check it out now, love to hear what you think about this. Absolutely fantastic. But that's it. I think I got everything right. I don't think I messed anything up. If I messed anything up, let me know. Still like 112 outside, man. It's ridiculous here in Texas. It's making these days long. Back to school, setting up my classroom. Yeah, doing a lot of outside, inside. It's long days. Got to build up my tolerance, my endurance. Now that school's almost here again. But anyways, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.